Big Dreamers, welcome to a very special edition of the Dream Big podcast, where we're not only just celebrating one milestone today, but two big achievements that mark the essence of dreaming big and growing even bigger. Today, we gather in spirit and joy and reflection to celebrate our 400th episode, a journey of inspiration, challenges, and incredible growth. Alongside this, we shine a spotlight on Sophia as she marks her personal triumph with her 100th episode. Each of these huge milestones is a testament to big vision and legacy. In this episode, we decided to dive deep into the heart of our podcast, from the tender beginnings with Eva, almost 8 years ago now, to the exponential growth and transition, passing off the torch to young Sophia. If you've been with us from the very beginning or you just recently joined, you've probably seen our podcast transform, mirroring the stages of growth from infancy to maturity. It's like humans, right? They first are born, learn how to walk, talk, and then they become teenagers and adults. Well, we've navigated the challenges and embraced the changes, much like the journey of growing up, learning and finding our place in the world. So today we invite you to go down the memory lane and see how podcasts have evolved over the years. So grab your party hats and your biggest smile, because today we're celebrating every step, jump, and giggle along the way. And of course, we celebrate you, Big Dreamers, because if it wouldn't be for you and you listening to our podcast, we would not be here at our 400th episode, right? So let's get ready to dream even bigger, laugh louder, and dive into more adventures together. This is our 400th episode, and it's time to dream big.
Welcome to the Dream Big podcast show. We're inspiring you to shoot for the moon, take aim and go. We bring to you amazing guests who truly love what they do. Every day they're living their dreams, and so can you. Dream big, take action to reach your goals. Are you pumped yet? It's showtime, let's rock and roll.
Welcome back, Big Dreamers. Today's episode is all about showing you that everything is possible. Sometimes you might not know where you're going, how you're going to achieve your goals and dreams, but by taking one step at a time, each day, you will get there. One of my personal favorite quotes that perfectly captures this spirit is, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." So let's rewind our timeline to 400 episodes ago and return to the origin of the Dream Big podcast and see what we can learn from it, shall we? So we began this journey with our older daughter, Eva, releasing the very first podcast episode in October 2016. And the reason behind it was simple. Eva was extremely shy. We as parents wanted to help her and started playing all sorts of motivational shows in our car while driving her to school, like Tony Robbins, Les Browns, and many, many more other speakers. But the problem was they were all geared towards adults, sometimes even with inappropriate language and too long of a recording. So one day, Eva asked if there was something like that for kids. Well, we started searching, but we didn't find anything suitable. And keep in mind, back then, there was no kids category of a podcast at all. And was barely any channels for kids, even on YouTube. So that was 2016. As the time of this recording, that was 8 years ago. That's when the light bulb went off in our entrepreneurial minds, especially after Eva asked, why don't we create something like this for kids? That's how the Dream Big podcast was born, with an idea of Eva overcoming her shyness by recording interviews with famous people who would share their big dreams, ideas, and tips for kids of all ages, or anyone who still feel like a kid. I would describe this as an infant phase of our podcast journey. We didn't know what we were doing, where we were going with it. And you get a spark of idea and you start testing it in the world to see if there is any tiny interest in it. And it kind of sorts of evolves from there. And it also was solving the problem. So that was really good. And if that works, then you should go for it. This is how it sort of started for us, with just an idea of helping our child, and then it started helping other people as well. Of course, creating a podcast involves a lot of work, and it would not be possible if Eva didn't have parents working behind the scenes on this. She was talent on a mic, on a podcast, but everything behind the scene needed to be published, written, and making sure that everything went out on time, right? So every Monday, our listeners would get a new podcast. Our audio should be edited and all sorts of other management stuff that had to happen. That's why I thought we'll have a special treat for you from someone that you never heard on this podcast before, because he was our superhero working magic behind the scenes of this podcast all this time. He's Eva's and Sophia's dad, my amazing husband, and a co-founder and former producer of the Dream Big podcast, Alex Karpman. Alex has been with us every step of the way, making sure our dream could reach all of you big dreamers. So let's dive into some questions with Alex. I thought that would be a nice treat for you. And get the inside scoop from Alex himself, how it all started and what he thinks, where it's going. Welcome to the Dream Big podcast, Alex. It's so awesome to have you on the mic, usually behind the scenes, doing the magic of the Dream Big podcast.
Wow, it took 400 episodes for me to be on the microphone, actually. I didn't do anything for any of the other ones. I was not involved at all.
But you've been driving force from day one, obviously, steering podcast to its success, as we can see. And first of all, we would like to know, what was your most memorable moment of the Dream Big podcast?
There's so many. I remember many, many times being outside of the door where Eva was recording her interviews, because I didn't want to be making her nervous or be in the room with her. And I'd just be listening to her, knowing who she was speaking with, whether it was General Stanley McChrystal, Lewis Howes, Mark Cuban, Mel Robbins, Ivana Lynch, so many incredible, famous people that, people would really, really want to speak to. And here she was having those conversations. But of course, for me, the most memorable of all was Kobe Bryant. Not because he's passed, which obviously was such a tragedy, but I grew up in Los Angeles, a huge Lakers fan. I was actually an intern in college for the Lakers, and when Kobe was there. So it was the thrill of a lifetime to listen to my daughter interview Kobe. And for that one, I did insist that I be in the room. I was sitting next to her, listening in on the interview. She went for like 15 to 20 minutes one-on-one with Kobe Bryant, which is just incredible. And that one will always just have a very meaningful, memory in my brain, in my mind, that will last forever.
Is there something else you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, it's the big dreamers. I mean, these interviews are so unique. If you could go back and listen to some of them, you'll learn a lot. And it's interesting because you have a peer, you have someone your age or around your age talking to these incredible people, which is very exciting. And I would encourage you maybe not to start your own podcast. If you'd like to, you can, because it's all about dreaming big. But you really can do incredible things at a young age if you set your mind to it, if you're disciplined, if you go for it. So hopefully Eva and Sophia are inspiring you to dream big and do incredible things.
Thank you so much, Alex. We're very lucky to have you as dad, as husband, and of course, as a co-producer of the Dream Big podcast. Without you, this vision would not come alive. But let's get back to our podcast and its growth, right? So, as we moved into what you might call the teenage years of our podcast, the journey reminded me of planting a seed and waiting potentially for it to sprout. For a while, it seemed like nothing was happening. And day after day, we watered it, nurtured it, hoping for a sign of life beneath the soil. And again, remember, this is just a family project that was created purely for helping Eva to overcome her shyness. But it did take a lot of our time because we needed to research who would be our guests, send about 100 invitations, and only receive 5 emails back. Only 3 people would say yes, only 2 show up on the interview. So it was a lot of work behind the scenes, and we didn't feel like something was happening. And after about a year, and around the 50th episode, just like a dedicated gardener beginning to doubt the arrival of spring, we witnessed something amazing. A green stem broke through the soil, and symbol of our efforts finally taking root. This was the moment, Big Dreamers, when our podcast began to show its true potential, growing stronger and more vibrant each day. We started receiving a lot of your reviews, a lot of emails, invitations to be on other podcasts. And eventually, it started blooming into this rich and engaging experience it is today. We became the #1 podcast on iTunes and started getting noticed by some of the biggest names out there, like Kobe Bryant. You remember, Eva interviewed him in episode 103. Mark Cuban, episode 203. Mel Robbins, 47. We interviewed astronauts, business people, motivational speakers, engineers, divers, many interesting people. You can go back into our archives on iTunes or on our website, dreambigpodcast.com, click on the pictures and see those episodes and listen to all of our interviews and amazing people we had on the show. That was a time when Eva was noticed by brands and was invited to speak on stages like Nike and join the Spartan Race World Championship as a media guest. And also she was invited as a keynote speaker. Now, mind you, she was only 9-10 years old at the time. And it was a big deal from being a little girl, shy on the mic first, and then growing into this beautiful host or co-host of a lot of events. And that was really cool. But the coolest part is that we started communicating with our audience more and understanding what they like more. And it was great to see how with Eva, a lot of our audience were growing and overcoming their fears or doubts about life, about big dreams, and hearing from our speakers for the very first time in that very approachable, down-to-earth, with simple questions kind of content. And at that time, Eva found her own voice and started creating solo episodes as well, sharing things she was passionate about and lessons she learned from our guests, and of course, the topics that you guys were interested about. At that point in our podcast journey, we all realized something special. This wasn't just a podcast anymore. It was becoming our family legacy. It was more than just sharing stories and interviews. It was about building something that mattered, something that one day still will live on the internet, something that still will carry on these messages from amazing people. And after Kobe Bryant passed away, we even realized deeper how important and valuable those interviews were. And it's something that not just for us, but for everyone who listens. It showed us how taking small steps towards what scares us can lead to big changes, not only for you, but for the rest of the people around you. On that note, let's turn the spotlight to someone who's been the heart and voice of our journey from the very beginning. Can you guess who it is? She is the original dreamer who inspired us all, a shining example of courage and curiosity. Let's welcome Eva Karpman, our incredible daughter and the first host of the Dream Big podcast. Eva's experiences and insights have paved definitely the way for us. So I'm really thrilled to dive into a couple of Q&As with her. Shall we? Welcome, Eva. I have to tell you, it's a little bit surreal, isn't it, to have you here on the mic after such a long break?
It's definitely very cool to be back, and it's been a while, but I think it's really nice to be able to look back and reflect on everything that has happened on this podcast and all the amazing memories created.
Oh, Eva, we love having you back on the podcast, so come back anytime. For now, though, I have a next question. What was going on through your mind during those early interviews, and how did you feel as you started to find your own voice, both on the podcast and in everyday situation?
Well, I think at the very beginning, it was definitely very, very nerve-wracking, especially since I wasn't as comfortable of a speaker as I am today. But now I've taken all of that, all of the training and all of the interviews and all of the speeches, and I've pretty much channeled that into my own daily life, just to be able to talk to, friends, family, teachers, everything. And it's amazing to be able to look back and think that's because of the podcast.
Thank you so much for sharing. I know that we had a lot of memorable experiences with you on the podcast, all the guests, all the traveling. But what makes it stand out for you as a truly special part of your podcasting journey?
I think one of the most memorable things that has happened from this podcast is being able just to speak on stages and to others and empower others to take action and start working on their dreams. I think especially going to Nike headquarters, going to Barcelona, and especially speaking to some of these amazing people such as Mark Cuban, Kobe Bryant. It's just been incredible.
Thank you, Eva. So now that you embarked on your own journey and stepped away from the Dream Big podcast, at least for now, what's the biggest piece of advice you'd offer to big dreamers who are just at the beginning of starting something new?
Well, I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give to big dreamers out there who are starting something new is instead of channeling all your fear and all your energy into the end result or the end product of what's to come, just live in the moment and think of what you're doing today. It all comes with little steps. And instead of also focusing on what other people think and how they're going to affect you, just stay in your own reality and get to your big dream or your big goal.
What a great advice. Thank you so much. And before we wrap up this mini Q&A, is there anything else you'd like to wish for big dreamers?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you so, so much, big dreamers, for everything that you have done for me. Without you, I would not be sitting here today recording the 400th episode of the Dream Big podcast. You all have impacted my life so much, and I hope that I have done the same with yours. I'm sure I'll see you in another episode soon. Bye!
Oh, thank you so much, Eva. I love you. You've done so much for this podcast, for Dream Big community over the years, and your journey been very, very inspirational. And as the podcast matured, Eva, of course, Big Dreamers matured as well. She recorded 300 remarkable episodes. 300. That's a lot of time, effort, focus, and dedication. And each one a step in her journey of growth and discovery. Now, as she focuses on her new adventures, balancing school, sports, social life, tutoring, by the way, she tutors young children, she continues to live the vibrant life of a teenager. It's like full of dreams and discoveries and new things. So we're really hoping this beautiful cycle of growth and change will evolve and bring into the world something new, something different. For those of you who's been with us for the last 2 years, you know that this episode marks Sophia's personal 100th episode, as I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast. And Eva graciously passed this torch of being a host of the Dream Big podcast to Sophia. And Sophia was ready and eager to take it. She was ready to step into the role of the host and bring her own unique spark, personality. And Sophia had her own vision of the podcast. Today's episode is definitely a moment of pride and joy for all of us and for Sophia. And we're all excited to hear from her personally. Shall we? Sophia, welcome to the Dream Big podcast.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Big Dreamers.
It's quite remarkable to think about how you've been part of this podcast for pretty much as long as you could talk, from a little voice in the background to now leading the way as a host. Your journey with the Dream Big podcast has been extraordinary. And I have a little surprise for you and Big Dreamers. Did you know that you started your first episode when you were 3 years old, almost 3 years old, and it was the 100th episode?
Wow, that's a long time. I actually didn't know that.
Do you want to hear how it went?
I do want to hear that.
Here you go.
So, Sophia, why don't you start by introducing yourself to our audience?
My name is Sophia. Nice to meet you, everybody.
Sophia, are you ready to tell a joke?
What is a giraffe's favorite fruit?
What is a giraffe's favorite fruit?
Nectarine.
Nectarines. That's a good one, Sophia. Ha ha ha. Thanks for being on the podcast.
I was so funny. Wow. Ha ha ha. I think that is my favorite episode of the Dream Big podcast ever.
Big Dreamers, make sure to listen to the 100th episode. We will include link in our show notes.
It's silly.
This is history in the making, Sophia. Now that we had a good laugh, Sophia, I have a few questions to ask you. First of all, since you've been a part of this podcast for so long and you've grown a lot, you've grown alongside this podcast, taking over as the host of the Dream Big podcast was a big responsibility. What was the most exciting part about stepping into this role for you?
Probably just all the fun and love and affection I get from all of you guys. It's really cool seeing that all of you support me and love my episodes. It's fun just having that feeling.
Can you please share your favorite moment or episode since you've started hosting?
Probably the first episode that I ever did. You know why? Because we had so many retakes on everything. Like, hi, I am Sophia. That's how long it took us. And I was actually in Hawaii while doing that. So it was a really fun experience to do.
How about Roxy episodes?
Yeah, I like Roxy episodes too. They're really cool. And I just like how it's based on me. And I don't know how we got the genie into there. It just popped up in our heads. It's based on a show that I did in 2nd grade, and we've been doing Roxy's Adventures ever since. So
cool. Sophia, what is your big dream for the future with podcast or outside the podcast?
I want to start recording actual YouTube on the podcast because you've seen we got to 10,000 subscribers already. Thank you guys so much for that. But we want to do more. So make sure to subscribe and like so that we know to start doing more. Maybe one day we can even do a camp. And also, I think one of my biggest dreams for this podcast is to open a camp in like our house for like a day camp. And you guys could meet me and my mom and my sister and my dad in person. And we'll teach you stuff like swimming and like maybe baking. Whatever's your dream big that we have for you guys. I love communicating and I would like to meet more people, especially my age.
Thank you so much, Sophia, for your enthusiasm, for your laughter. Is there anything else you'd like to say to Big Dreamers?
Yes, Mom. One thing. one big important thing. Thank you guys so much for the support and the subscribers and everything you do. It supports us and it helps us grow. And we help you grow by helping us grow. So thank you for saying hi to me. We'll try to give some shout outs in the next episode. Stuff like that, you know? I love you guys so much.
Those are very beautiful words, Sophia. Thank you so much.
So, Olga, you've asked us all these questions. Now it's your turn to take some questions.
All right.
So you've seen Eva and Sophia grow not just in age, but in confidence and skills through the podcast. How has their journey impacted you personally?
Thank you. That's a beautiful question. As every parent, I just personally wanted my kids to flourish and recognize their gifts and help them with their gifts that they can bring to the world. And for Eva being so shy, we just knew that this is her opportunity to shine, and how confident and comfortable she felt on the mic, that definitely showed through at their early age. And as we can see now, she has no problem speaking, putting the words beautifully. She can easily go on stages in front of hundreds and thousands of people. And that's something that I think that she can bring back to any area she chooses. And for me as a mom of these beautiful two girls, this is probably the most important personal gift, let's say, from this podcast, knowing that my kids are equipped with skills that they can use in any area of their lives. And of course, through this beautiful journey, it brought us closer together. I remember traveling with Eva to her speaking engagements, and we would practice and discuss the outfits and went shopping. We went to Barcelona, where she spoke in front of women entrepreneurs who were also going to set up their own podcast. And she, at 10 years old, was giving advice to this 40, 50 years old women. And that was incredible. And then when we flew to Nike, that was amazing to see how they were treated as celebrities there. She was co-hosting the event, and they were other kids as well performing. So that was incredible to see, just knowing that this experience bring us closer together and building memories. With Sophia, we constantly discussing the new episodes. We're coming up with stories of Roxy. I'm sure you guys heard of them. And that's just pure magic, how it all comes from her imagination. Obviously, I help to put it all together. But it's just something that we will always cherish and remember.
Okay, here's another one. For parents listening who want to support their children's dreams and aspirations in podcasting and YouTubing, what guidance could you offer based on your experience?
To those parents or caregivers out there who want to support their kids in their dreams, and either it's podcasting or YouTubing, I would definitely say go for it. Of course, prepare for usual circumstances, right? Kids start something and then they want to do it. They want to give up, and you end up doing most of the work behind the scenes. Yes, but at the same time, you are helping them to go forward with their dreams and assuring them that you are here to help. So maybe you and your child, or whoever wants to set up podcasts or YouTube, or whoever has a big dream, come up with a plan and actually commit to this plan. Let's say for the first 6 months, for the first year, of publishing once a week and coming up and having brainstorm sessions. And it's just like with sports, sometimes you take a kid to sport and they're tired, they don't want to do it. But you explain to them again and again that this is commitment, or this is some goal that you wanted to achieve. And it's not always going to be jumping, giggling, and laughing. There is work involved, there is focus involved, and sometimes we don't feel like jumping on those interviews, right? Because we feel tired. But that's where exactly where our podcasts come in, right? Where how you learn how to change your state of mind, change the emotions, change everything, or get inspired by people who achieve big dreams. And every big dream requires certain steps that we take towards it. So definitely, I would say support your kids, come up with a game plan together and commit to it. That's going to be one of the biggest lessons and memories that you can build together with your child.
Great answer. And last but not least, the Dream Big podcast has become a part of our family's legacy. How do you envision its future? And are there any exciting developments we could look forward to?
That's a great question. This podcast was created as our inspiration, right? And we loved the motivational aspect of it. We had ideas of making it big into multimedia company. We for sure can publish books one day. Sophia is asking me about the Roxy books, right? And she wants to do YouTube channel, and she wants to do merch, and she wants to do this and that. And camp, the Dream Big Podcast camp, where adults and kids can come together. Kids can learn about entrepreneurship, and it just this amazing environment where everyone can thrive. That would be great, right? The only question is, where would we like to put our energy and focus? Because we do have other businesses, kids are growing up fast, we do have our travels and other commitments in life. So for now, we just going to focus on keep providing amazing value for our listeners. Please subscribe and share. And one day, definitely, I see Sophia coming back as an interviewer, like Eva started, right? And interviewing amazing guests. She would like to grow her YouTube channel, so please subscribe to that. And the rest of it will just trust into our path and into our journey. And if we decide to grow it even bigger, we can. There is nothing impossible. It's just a matter of where would you like to put your focus. And as of now, our focus is just keep building family legacy and keep providing value to you big dreamers. Big dreamers, as we wrap up this milestone episode, it's clear that the journey of the Dream Big podcast is far from over. And looking towards the future in ever-evolving podcast landscape, business landscape, and just our own kids growing. Our commitment to you is to keep the show fresh, engaging for you, for other people who will come in. And we are hoping that you can come back to this show and to the previous episodes and re-listen to them or share them with your friends and family. Our vision is to continue growing with you, our listeners, and adapting to your interest and, of course, addressing the challenges you might have. Thank you so much for being with us on this wonderful journey. This was Olga Karpman, Sophia Karpman, Alex Karpman, and Eva Karpman, reminding you that you have unlimited potential. Your dreams are not optional. You need to make them essential. So keep dreaming big, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye!